I'm going to show you how I made this wall mount soldering iron holder. I needed something that I could mount to the plywood toolboard and have the hot end of the iron not touch the board. So I used Fusion 360 to start designing the soldering iron holder. To mount the holder, I used screws. I measured the diameter and constructed holes for the screws back in Fusion 360. I made these holes larger than the diameter of the screws. I then aligned these two holes on either side of the back plate. I extruded the two circles using the function of cut to form two holes through which the screws will be mounted. Next, to keep the soldering iron from not touching the plywood, I created a rectangle on the back plate and centered it to allow space for screwdriver while mounting. I then measured the distance from plywood to the soldering iron while holding it in desired location. Using this distance, I extruded the rectangle and made it slightly longer than the measured. For the holder to stay in its position, I needed something that would hold it in its place. For that, I created a square at the end of the already created cuboid and extruded the same to the height at which I knew the tip of the soldering iron wouldn't touch the plastic. I created each of these as a separate component in Fusion 360 to easily distinguish all the parts. For the holder to stay erect, I measured the diameter of the end of the holder and created a circle of larger diameter than the measured and cut a hole into which the holder would be mounted. I created a line at an angle and sliced it from the cube so that the hot part of the iron would not touch the plastic. To make sure that the iron does not tip over, I added additional support underneath the back plate. I extruded the bottom of the back plate and created a rectangle with the same width as the above part. To make it slightly aesthetically pleasing, I gave it a similar angled cut as the cube and extruded it. To match the rest of the toolboard attachments, I performed fillet function on the edges of the cube. Once I was happy with the model, I created an STL file which I used in Flashprint software to slice. I encountered repair model error. To remove this error, combine all the bodies you've created, click on modify and combine. This should resolve the error. I then printed the model. I only had access to PLA, but it's better to print this in ABS. This print had tree supports at the bottom. After a little cleanup, removing the supports, it was time to insert the holder into the 3D printed part. I mixed fast setting 2-part epoxy and applied it to the end of the holder and pressed it into the 3D printed part. To mount the entire setup to the plywood, I drilled 2 holes and screwed the part in its place. The final holder was then ready and meeting all my requirements. The iron does not touch the 3D printed part directly, and the iron on the hole doesn't tip over while using it in real life applications. If you've enjoyed watching me design and 3D print this part and would like to watch me make more, please do like and subscribe.